What's up, guys? Alexis Nunes alongside Nate Saunders. Nate, we couldn't wait for our podcast next week. I had to talk to you because I know we're desperate for developments and updates, and it seems like we have got some, as you know, the entire world continues to I guess when we can finally get some sports again. I literally just jumped off of a football call to see if the Premier League could come up with a date. They don't have one yet, but it seems that Formula One are throwing something out there, and we're hearing that Austria, or the Austrian Grand Prix, could be a good starting point. So what's the details on that, and just how feasible is it?
Yeah, so these discussions are kind of ongoing, as you say, pretty much across all of the sports that we're involved in. But in Formula One, it's kind of a moving target, because we've seen over the last couple of weeks a few races called off, a few postponed, and now Austria is the very beginning of July, and that's held at the Red Bull Ring, which is just outside the Austrian town of Spielberg, which is a pretty remote part of the country. I think I checked, and Spielberg's population is about 5,000 people, so it's not in a densely populated capital city or anything like that. And that seems to be at the moment where Formula One hopes that maybe it can get this season underway. Now, obviously, every single thing we're talking about is provisional. There's no confirmation that the season's going to start there, or even that they'll be able to race there at the weekend they want to. But the key is that they've identified that could be a starting point. On the weekend that it was meant to take place as well, it looks like Red Bull might, according to some reports, Red Bull are a bit apprehensive about it moving from the date that it would have been. But if F1 can pull this off, it would be behind closed doors. That would be the thing we can confirm at this point. They're not going to race in front of a packed packed grandstands full of people. I went the last 3 years I've covered the Austrian Grand Prix, and it's always packed full of Max Verstappen fans who have made the short drive across from the Netherlands. So unfortunately, they'd have to stay home. But that would be, at the moment, fingers crossed for F1. If they can do it, and they can do it safely, I think that would be the starting point. But like we say, completely provisional at the moment, and we don't know. In a couple of weeks' time, this news might not be possible.
And I suppose if we do get that start at the Austrian Grand Prix, and I'm just reading here as well, there's now talk of scheduling 2 races at Silverstone. So what's kind of the thought process behind that, and again, how feasible is it?
Yeah, so on the multiple races, if F1's going to pull off the season it wants to, it's going to have multiple races within one weekend. So it's going to have to basically, we're not sure exactly what that will look like. It's never been done before in any way across a Formula One season. It's never needed to. The Silverstone circuit wasn't actually built initially as a racetrack. It was an airfield years and years ago. So there's a lot of different variations you can have to that circuit. Again, though, this is where it's key. Is a lot of it depends on the political situations that are going on at that time. Now, the reason Austria is being mooted at the moment is because there's been a change in the situation over there. The lockdown seems to be coming to an end. People are still encouraged to work from home, but they're opening a lot of supermarkets now. In the UK, the lockdown, as we know, has been extended into mid-May. There's still a big ban on big public events. So if the British Grand Prix was to go ahead, you would imagine that would still be behind closed doors as well. But I think right now the key for Formula One is they want to get this season underway, because with every week, with every month that passes, there's even less time for them to actually get any kind of season together. As we know, they need to have 8 races across 3 continents for it to be a legitimate world championship. And the last thing they want is to start one and then have to either cancel it or somehow roll it into next season as well, because that creates all sorts of complications and headaches down the road. So at the moment, potentially, this is the way Formula One starts. But like you said at the beginning, rightly, it's so difficult to predict. I mean, we might be sitting here in 2 weeks being like, so that's off the table now. Like, when's the next one?
And then I suppose pick your brain a little bit and play devil's advocate a little, because we just had this conversation again with the Premier League and in terms of football, because they were saying that even playing behind closed doors involves hundreds of people. So that already sounds like a hazard in and of itself. How many people are we talking about, like you said, for race day on Formula One? And they'll all have to be thoroughly tested, time and time again for these races, wouldn't they?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the last thing F1 wants is another situation like the Australian Grand Prix where it's all ready to go. It's literally on the verge of happening, and then obviously a team has to pull out and they have to cancel the race because someone gets it. So it's a really good question. I mean, just to give you an idea, just in a Formula One pit stop, you need between 20, 30 people just to do that. The amount of people that there are for that operation. Now, those guys are mechanics as well. That's not their only job. They work on the car through the weekend, but there's a huge team of them. You have technical guys. Now, the bigger teams are, I guess, blessed in this situation because they're able to do stuff back home while the race is going on. But obviously, the teams with less money aren't able to to effectively be running a race operation from a factory back home as well. You have Pirelli mechanics as well. You have security for the circuit. You have people who, the FIA has to bring people to make sure the circuit is safe, to make sure that, if curbs come off during the race, there's teams of people that fix those. So it's a huge undertaking. I wouldn't even feel comfortable putting a number on it, but you're talking several hundred people, just to get this race underway. Then you're talking about broadcast crews. I assume Formula One would want it televised somehow. Yeah. That's a huge undertaking as well. You would need the people that drive this equipment to and from the event as well. Those are key members of this whole scenario as well. So that really is a logistical headache for F1, and it needs to make sure that part of it is solved before we go racing anywhere. Because, like I said, the last thing it needs is another moment where it seems like it acted irresponsibly, or there's a suggestion that it acted irresponsibly, like people suggested after Melbourne.
All right, well, Nate Saunders, thank you so much as always. It still seems like one big headache, but again, we're just working our way through it day by day, week by week, and hopefully we do get sooner. But of course, safety and health above everything else. We'll definitely continue to keep you guys updated on any more developments. Thanks for watching ESPN on YouTube, and for more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app, and for premium content plus live streaming, make sure to subscribe to ESPN Player.